Yo, what is good, everyone? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prodigy channel, and in this video, I'm going to be doing a draft review from an actual real-life fantasy football draft that I did in preparation for the 2023 NFL season. This league started back in 2012. It's the League of Bros. I am a 3-time champion. I'm hoping to make it 4 times after this season, and with the draft that I had, I think I have a pretty good chance of doing that. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe, and let's get right into the draft review. So this is a non-PPR 12-team league, 1 quarterback, no super flex or anything like that. We got 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex, and we do start a kicker and a defense as well. For some reason, we probably should change it. I do prefer half PPR and not having kickers and defenses, but this is just such an OG fantasy league. It's so old. It was my first ever league that I started on my own, and I am the commissioner, and for some reason we just keep it the way it is, but maybe we should change it. We do have other leagues with kind of the same friend groups as well, but I digress. I had the 2nd overall pick. I am the Bungling Buffaloes. I do live in Minnesota. Pretty much everyone in this league, except for, I think there's one team in here that's not this one right here. I think that he's a Packers fan. Other than that, it's pretty much all Vikings fans, what I'm trying to say. I was still hoping that I could get Justin Jefferson with the number 2 pick, but he did go number 1 overall to my other friend Tyler. So this Tyler had to settle for Christian McCaffrey at number 2. I'm not really mad about it. McCaffrey, when he's on the field, is great. He was labeled as injury prone for a couple seasons, but last year he, was very healthy and very productive. So hopefully he can do that again. I also have him on my dynasty team, so I have a lot riding on CMC. But at pick number 2, that is easy. If you want to take him number 1 overall, I do not blame you. I just think Justin Jefferson, even in a non-PPR league, is at least worth considering at the number 1 overall pick. And especially, we play fantasy football to win, but also to have fun. So as a Vikings fan, I really wanted Justin Jefferson. But unfortunately, I did not get him. Christian McCaffrey is more than fine with the number 2 pick. It then went Austin Eckler, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Bijan, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs. And then into the 2nd round, we got Derrick Henry, Diggs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Aaron Jones. That's a little earlier than I would have taken Aaron Jones, but I digress again. Mark Andrews went 20th. Then Josh Allen. Then Cooper Kupp went. We drafted a few days ago. This is before Cooper Kupp was ruled out for week 1. But there were reports that he was in Minnesota seeking opinions on his hamstring. So for me, he wasn't on my do not draft list, but he was falling in drafts. And even where he was, I wanted no part of that. Just because this early in the draft, I want to avoid that type of risk. And he has now been ruled out for week 1. Hamstring injuries are notoriously tricky. So that is a tough one for Hickey's heroes. Hopefully for Hickey and Cooper's sake, Cooper Kupp can get back on the field. And now we're at my pick, the 23rd overall pick. I was really deciding between Rhamondre Stevenson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jaylen Waddle, Chris Olave, T. Higgins. And one thing I knew is in these mock drafts that I was doing, I often would get Rhamondre Stevenson or Jahmyr Gibbs here, and then Waddle or Olave or Higgins would be there kind of coming back around for the 3rd round. Another thing that I took into account here when I made this pick of Rhamondre Stevenson, running back of the Patriots, in addition to just liking the value, is you can get kind of lost when you're just looking at a list of names ranked. What I like to do, and what a lot of experts would say to do, is to kind of have a tier list of players that you want. So for me, I knew I liked Rhamondre Stevenson just a little bit more than some of the running backs that were there. Not that I don't like Gibbs, but remember, this is a non-PPR league. I would be fine with Joe Mixon, but his efficiency is down a little bit. I think he'll still be fine for fantasy, but I think Rhamondre Stevenson should be going a little bit higher. Like, I would rather have him over Aaron Jones, that's for sure. I think his value is a little suppressed with the Ezekiel Elliott signing, and while Zeke may get some work and may get some goal line carries, most running backs, most lead backs have some sort of committee. Like, no running back gets 100% of the carries, and I don't think Ezekiel Elliott is enough of a threat to take away sizable work unless Rhamondre Stevenson has a fumbling issue and gets in Belichick's doghouse. So Rhamondre was the pick. And speaking of the tier list factor, I knew I liked Jaylen Waddle, I knew I liked Olave, and I knew I liked T. Higgins. So there was really 3 wide receivers that I liked, and really 1 running back that I wanted at that point. So I knew I could take Rhamondre Stevenson, and at least one of those receivers would get back to me. Next up goes Jalen Hurts and Jahmyr Gibbs. So I'm on the clock, and all three of those receivers were still available. It was really tough to pick between Jaylen Waddle and Chris Olave. I almost wish Jaylen Waddle would have been taken instead of like Cooper Kupp or something. So then I could have just gone with Chris Olave. I did end up getting Olave in a different league, a guillotine league, so I do have some shares of him. But Jaylen Waddle has already proven a couple seasons in a row to be electric. And even though he is the number 2 with Tyreek Hill being the number 1, that Dolphins offense has a lot of firepower and a lot of potential. So I did give the slight edge to Jaylen Waddle. But if you wanted to go with Chris Olave over that, I would not blame you at all. Next went Mahomes, Olave, Lamar Jackson, Joe Mixon, Calvin Ridley, ETN, T. Higgins, Damian Pierce, Devontae Smith, Justin Fields, Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf, Najee, Debo, Justin Herbert, who I think is going to have a great year, Trevor Lawrence, Mike Evans. I think that's a nice value pick. He went a little earlier, I feel like, than he normally would. I think the 69ers kind of reached on him and Aaron Jones a little bit, but I think Mike Evans normally goes later, and I normally like his ADP when he goes a little bit later. But Miles Sanders, Mike Williams, Breece Hall, and then I'm on the clock again. And this was just a case where there were, when I looked at the running backs that were on the board, I really liked Kenneth Walker. At wide receiver, I wasn't really in love with the options. I liked some of them, but I didn't love them. And I do think Kenneth Walker, I know they drafted Zach Charbonnet early in the draft, but I think he'll be the starter and he will be amazing for fantasy. So I took him right there, then went Amari Cooper and TJ Hawkinson. And I normally don't go quarterback this early in the draft. Last year, I really wish I would have reached for Jalen Hurts. And we see how that turned out. He was pretty much the best quarterback in all of fantasy. But Joe Burrow was there. And, he already went after guys like Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson. So I think this was a great place to grab him. And also when I kind of looked at the players available, like, yes, I like Cam Akers. I like Alexander Madison. Other than that, you could take a shot on Dobbins. Deontay Johnson, I like, but I think it'll be better than last season where he had 0 touchdowns. But I think he's more of a PPR guy. A lot of risk with Javonte. If you just look at the options available, I know that Joe Burrow is going to be a week in, week out starting quarterback for me. I know he kind of dealt with an injury in training camp, but all reports are saying he's back and healthy. He's ready for week 1 as of this recording. So I kind of just took this as a luxury pick where he's my quarterback. I just liked the options that were there. I liked him more than the options that were there. So I went with Joe Burrow. Not a super early quarterback pick, but even still, I normally wait. But Burrow is my QB1. And then we got George Kittle, Cam Akers, Alexander Madison. And one factor also is I already had 3 stud running backs at this point with McCaffrey, Kenneth Walker, and Rhamondre Stevenson. So I could have gone with Akers or Madison. I'm a Vikings fan, and I think Madison is a little undervalued, but I went with the QB. Christian Kirk definitely went way too early. Again, the 69ers, they know who they want, and he reached for some players. Good for him. Darren Waller, I really like that pick. Jonathan Taylor, with all the risk, I was avoiding that at all costs, especially since I do have him on my dynasty team as well. I do not want, multiple leagues with. I'm only in 3 leagues, so I don't want 2/3 of my leagues to be ruined by Jonathan Taylor, especially after he kind of caused me some headaches last season. But anyways, Isaiah Pacheco, Christian Watson, a lot of potential there. Rashad White, J.K. Dobbins, Deontay Johnson, Kyle Pitts, Javonte Williams, Dallas Goedert, DJ Moore, James Cook, James Conner, Tyler Lockett, Khalil Herbert, Terry McLaurin off the board. So I was highly considering Brandon Ayuk, and he is one of my favorite targets, kind of in that 6th, 7th round. I think he's a great value. But already having Christian McCaffrey, I thought, let's increase that upside a little bit and go with a player on a different team. Tyler Lockett is another player that I love to target, but he was taken right before me. I think James Cook, James Conner, Khalil Herbert, those are all great picks in this spot. But I went with Drake London. I think he's a super talented second-year wide receiver, and the offense isn't great. We'll see how Desmond Ridder plays. And they're a pretty run-heavy team, at least based on last season. But at this value, I think Drake London is a solid wide receiver, too, with upside. And then a couple picks later, I did take Jahan Dotson, another second-year receiver. I was kind of going into this draft and my other drafts targeting these young up-and-coming receivers, and I was able to snag 2 of them right here. I did go with Dotson over a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, who I think could be solid, but in that Titans offense with Burks there, the offense running through Derrick Henry, I really don't see DeAndre Hopkins having as much upside at his age as Jahan Dotson does, especially with the offense in Washington looking like it'll be much better than years past. And Terry McLaurin is a guy I would also like to target, but he had been dealing with an injury a little bit. I'm not sure what the status is of that right now, but hopefully he's good to go. But Michael Pittman, you got a running rookie quarterback coming in. I think Pittman's talented, but with those rookie quarterbacks, especially one that runs the ball a little bit, I'm not sure what the volume is going to be like and the efficiency. Maybe he'll be fine, but I like Dotson just a little bit better. I just liked Dotson a lot more than most of these guys. If you want to go with Chris Godwin there, I think he's due for a good season. He's just a solid veteran. You kind of know what you're getting. I took a little bit of a chance on Dotson, hoping for the upside to hit, but you got Dalvin Cook, Michael Thomas, Kamara, George Pickens, Chris Godwin, Anthony Richardson, speaking of that Colts quarterback, Jordan Addison, Marquise Hollywood Brown, Zay Flowers is a guy that I was targeting. I was hoping he would get back to me, but he did not. David Montgomery, Jerry Jeudy, Deshaun Watson, A.J. Dillon, Brandon Cooks, Geno Smith, Gabe Davis, Raheem Mostert, Cortland Sutton. And then at this point, I did go youth receiver again. I took Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Jaxon Smith-Njigba. I was hoping, a guy like Raheem Mostert, who should be the Dolphins' starting running back, especially with the injuries they have there, or Gabe Davis, who I think could have a little bit of a bounce back. He was so hyped last season, didn't deliver. I think he can still beat his ADP this season. Or Zay Flowers or Addison. I was hoping one of those guys would get back to me. And when I just looked at the other options on the board, you look at the guys who went after Jaxon Smith-Njigba. For receiver, you got Kadarius Toney, very injury prone. I know I don't like to give people that label, but he is a particularly injured man. You got this duo of running backs in Washington, a few tight ends that aren't super inspiring: Elijah Moore, Sky Moore, Juju, Quentin Johnston, Romeo Doubs. So all I've been hearing all offseason from the experts is that Jaxon Smith-Njigba is a league winner. He's hyper talented. And all I have been thinking all offseason is, okay, that's great, but how is he going to get the opportunities in Seattle when you have Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf there already? And you also have a backfield with Kenneth Walker and a highly drafted Zach Charbonnet, and they're going to get a lot of touches as well. I just took him for the upside. This late in the draft, I would rather take a shot on a guy like that than take, someone who might not have as much upside like a Juju Smith-Schuster or, Sky Moore. We haven't really seen do much. I do like Elijah Moore and Sky Moore, but I think Jaxon Smith-Njigba, especially if an injury occurs in that receiver room, he could be a crazy value. And you kind of have to not put some players on your do not draft list just because you don't have, I don't know how to word what I'm saying, but I never would have expected to draft this guy, but I kind of put his name to the side and I thought maybe I'm wrong about his opportunity. If he does get the opportunity, if he surpasses, let's say, Tyler Lockett, he might be a league winner. So I took this pick purely for upside, which I like to do later in the draft. And that's also why I avoided a guy like Cooper Kupp early in the draft, because when you're shooting for upside early in the draft, you're passing on, first round options that could help your team. Whereas right here, I take this upside. Okay, I missed out on these guys. Most of these guys probably won't be relevant for fantasy anyways. So, and if he hits, I got a starter. So anyways, it went Jamal Williams, Kadarius Toney, and then I was forced to decide between Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson because I knew I wanted one of these backs. I went with Antonio Gibson. I think he's got a little more upside, a little more potential to be used in the passing game. Even in a non-PPR league, I went with Gibson. Then Brian Robinson went after that. Dalton Kincaid, Elijah Moore, Dalton Schultz, Sky Moore, Evan Ingram, Juju, Zach Charbonnet, Danny Dimes, who I think is a great quarterback value, Quentin Johnston, Samaje Perine, Tua, Jaylen Warren, Nico Collins. I love these picks of Perine, Jaylen Warren. I got them in a different league, and I think they're great running backs who could have flex value on their own without an injury. And if an injury occurs to the starter, they skyrocket. Nico Collins, Romeo Dobbs, I like that sleeper pick. He is a Packers fan, so good for him. Pat Freiermuth, Dak Prescott, another great value pick. Rashad Bateman, a defense did go off the board, pick 117, the San Francisco 49ers. Another 49er, Elijah Mitchell. And then I'm on the clock. I have to make a pick at tight end. I was hoping Pat Freiermuth would get to me. He did not. I went with David Njoku. And then we had Odell Beckham go off the board. And then another Raven, Justin Tucker. Okay, like, you know, I honestly am not opposed to taking a kicker of Justin Tucker's caliber before the last round, but when you have players on the board like Treylon Burks, Tyler Algier, guys like that, you know, maybe I would take them. But if you know Justin Tucker is going to be a good kicker, so I'm not going to hate on him for that. But I went with Treylon Burks again, just a young up and coming receiver. Didn't have the best rookie season, but even with Hopkins there, I think at this point in the draft, his upside is worth that pick. Then we got Cole Kmet, Kenneth Gainwell, McKinnon, the Eagles defense. Tyler Algier is someone that I really wanted to fall to me. If I didn't go tight end, I would have taken Algier probably. I think sort of like Jaylen Warren and Samaje Perine, he has the potential to have his own flex value in Atlanta. But if the starter, Bijan, goes down, he'll be, you know, an every week starter. Zeke went, Zach Moss, Greg Dulcich, Marvin Mims, Devin A-Chain, Tank Bigsby, who is another running back that falls into that category that I've been describing, Rashad Penny, Jameson Williams, Gerald Everett, Alan Lazard, Rashee Rice, Jacoby Myers, Deion Jackson, Jalen Hyatt, the Bills defense. And then I normally don't advise drafting 2 tight ends, but at this point in the draft, I wasn't super inspired by the options there. And I have a good but not great tight end with David Njoku. I think Chig, you know, before they brought in Hopkins, he had a little more potential for volume. But I think he's athletic enough where, you know, he doesn't need a ton of volume to put together some good games. So I'll have him on the roster. If things don't work out, I'll cut him. I'll just ride with Njoku. But, you know, if you have a guy like Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, maybe you don't make this pick. But because I don't really have that position locked down, and just because, you know, I didn't really love the other players there, I went with Chig. The Patriots defense went next, then Jeff Wilson. And then I went ahead and drafted Jonathan Mingo, yet another young receiver. He's a rookie. This just comes down to opportunity in Carolina. He's coming in with another rookie at quarterback. We'll just see where he likes to go with the ball. They brought in Adam Thielen, but as a Vikings fan, I can say he's probably not the same player he once was. If he is cooked, Mingo could pass him on the depth chart. DJ Chark is also on that depth chart, but he's more of a role player, kind of like a big play guy, whereas we'll see if Mingo can maybe get more consistent targets. I just took a pick to see what would happen. Daniel Carlson, Spears, Chark, Foreman, Bryce Young, the Ravens D, McCole Hardman, Kirk Cousins, Laporta, Higbee, Kendre Miller, Roshan Johnson, Luke Musgrave, Rondell Moore, Jason Myers, the Jets D, Graham Gano, Aaron Rodgers, which I think is a crazy good value with the weapons he has there, Harrison Butker, Cordero Patterson, and then I went ahead and took a flyer on Kareem Hunt. You could also do this with Leonard Fournette. Neither running back is on a team. Maybe they'll end up in a situation where they're on a roster and have opportunity. Maybe they don't sign anytime soon, or maybe they sign somewhere where they won't see the field. Either way, at this point, it was worth a shot just to see what happens. Then Jawan Johnson, Jared Goff, and then I took the Washington Commanders defense because I like to stream defenses. I never draft a defense early. And even if you do draft a defense early, they're probably not going to be as good as you think. And you're going to be stuck in a position where you have to play them every single week, even when they're playing the Chiefs and the Bills and yada, yada. So I took the Commanders defense because they are playing the Arizona Cardinals in week 1. And that is something that I love. I think the Denver offense will be better, but if in week 1 the Broncos look terrible on offense, maybe I just keep the Commanders for week 2 against the Broncos. We'll see. But that's my defense for week 1. Adam Thielen, Zay Jones. We had some defenses and kickers go off the board. Kenny Pickett. We're nearing the end of the draft here. MVS went off the board. Damian Harris, Brock Purdy, Russell Wilson. And then with my last pick, I picked Tyler Bass. I was surprised he was still there. I was looking at like just some rankings sheets and some tier lists as I was going along, and the Bills kicker was very high, like usually like a top 4 option. I feel like the Bills offense is really good, and he's a good kicker, and I feel like he's gonna have a lot of points and a lot of scoring opportunities, a lot of extra points, a lot of field goals. Later in the season, we might have to worry about weather, but at this point, I'm fine drafting him as my kicker. I often don't draft a kicker, and I take a flyer on someone else. But for him, I feel like he was a high enough tier of a kicker where I'll burn a roster spot for him for a few days before the season, which starts tomorrow as of this recording. So yeah, this was the and the last pick was Tyler Boyd. So this was my draft. My team ended up looking like this: Joe Burrow, McCaffrey, Rhamondre Stevenson, and Kenneth Walker at the flex. Wide receiver, we got Jaylen Waddle and Drake London. We got Njoku at tight end. And then to sort of put in at wide receiver or flex or whatever, we got Gibson, Treylon Burks. If he hits, Dotson, I'm feeling really good about. If Jaylen Waddle were to miss time, he is questionable. I'm not sure what his deal is right now. During the draft, it said it looked like he was ready to play week 1. So if he plays, I'll play him. But if he misses time, I will just throw Dotson in there, especially against the Arizona Cardinals. And I have a lot of high upside guys on my bench who I can also cut if needed. So you need some guys to cut for those week 1 waiver wire options, because especially after week 1, you want to add those guys where maybe it's not all about looking at the box score. It's looking at who saw opportunities, who was on the field, who saw targets, who had opportunities to carry the ball, who saw, who was in on third downs, which running backs were getting passing down usage, stuff like that. So you want to be able to have someone you can let go of. So I have some guys here where after week 1, things will be a little more clear, especially with Kareem Hunt. But anyways, this is the team, 12-team non-PPR league. I'm looking for championship number 4, and I think I'm going to get it. I am going up against the guy who took Justin Jefferson from me, and I plan on giving him the revenge that he deserves, because he should not have taken that player from me. And McCaffrey is going to show him why he should have taken him instead, because CMC is a stud. But that's going to do it for the video. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.